Web Marketing That Works, episode 26.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
Hey there, everyone. It's Toby Jenkins from the Web Marketing That Works podcast. This is the show for people who love marketing on the web, and today is another great show. We've got Valerie Khoo on today's show, and Valerie talks us through everything from where she started as a blogger, which was writing as her cat, before she progressed on to really blogging for her business. And her business is the Australian Writers Centre, and through all of these online marketing efforts, she's been able to graduate over 18,000 writing students from her courses. We also dive quite a bit into a really cool initiative of hers, which is the Best Australian Blogs competition. And so I was really excited to talk all of the detail with Valerie. And I really hope you enjoy the show. As always, it's brought to you by our new book, Web Marketing That Works, and specifically the bonus templates that go with it. So if you're keen to grab those templates, there's 33 free web marketing templates over at bluewiremedia.com.au/book. So hi everyone, it's my great pleasure to introduce our guest, friend and super writing coach today, Valerie Khoo. Valerie founded the Australian Writers Centre in 2005, which won a Telstra Business Award in 2010 and was named in Dell's 10 most innovative small businesses in Australia. Valerie walks the talk and is self-confessed blogaholic and author of Power Stories, the 8 stories you must tell to build an epic business. Valerie has also founded socialcallout.com and is a journalist at large, living and writing for all sorts of major news outlets. Valerie, Adam first met you as part of a panel, wasn't it, at the National Small Business Summit in 2010?
That's right.
And then when we reconnected at a Business Chicks event with Tony Shea, and then when we were contemplating writing our first book, we also signed up for Valerie's course, How to Write a Business Book, which was awesome. Thank you. And it really formed the blueprint for everything that we did with Web Marketing That Works. So, Valerie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show, Toby.
No, it's really cool. Valerie, the other thing you really helped us out with the book writing process was sort of some of those stickier moments around getting past the imposter syndrome of, is anyone actually going to read what we have to write? So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Well, let's jump into it. Valerie, sort of what's a day in the life look like for you at the moment?
Wow. Okay. The day in my life is pretty varied because I can be spending time in Sydney or in Melbourne because we have operations in Sydney and Melbourne. We also have operations in Perth, but I don't spend as much time in Perth because we have a great state director there for the Australian Writers Centre. So depending on where I am, I either wake up in a T-shirt or I wake up laden with jumpers and underclothes and under a doona. But my day's pretty varied because I do a lot of things. I either am, heavily involved in the operations and in the marketing and in dealing with students at the Australian Writers Centre, or I'm mentoring students. But I'm also, doing my own writing, which I enjoy a lot. And it's great to have a good mix because I also mentor some small businesses and am involved heavily in the small business space. And so it's good to kind of, for me, what's good is to have that mix of that creative side, but also that, business and numbers side. And I know that's a little bit unusual for a lot of people. People think you kind of have to be one or the other, but I love the fact that I can integrate them both in my life. So it's very varied.
Yeah, that's awesome. Actually, I should have said, can you tell us a bit more about the Australian Writers Centre and what you do with that particular part from the business side?
Sure. So the Australian Writers Centre was founded in 2005, as you mentioned. Back then it was only in Sydney. And as I mentioned, it's sort of grown and grown and grown now that we're across Australia. And even if you're not near a centre, about 45% of our students are actually in our online classrooms.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we've got students from all over Australia, but also people enroll from Afghanistan or the Italian
Oh,
Alps or
really?
California. Yeah, yeah. It's a great mix. There's a lot of expats in Hong Kong or Singapore, um, New Zealand, of course, and it's great to be able to have that hub where people can connect online and learn online, and that's been a real passion of mine because I really do love technology. So I wanted to use technology very early on to be able to reach people who couldn't physically come to our centre because not everyone can for obvious reasons, either
Yeah.
because of geography or time or they just live just that little bit too far or whatever. And so, yeah, the centre has grown not only physically by having 3 centres now, and well, 4 if you count online as a centre,
Yeah.
um, but also, just in the number of students. So we're reaching about 18,000 students now,
Huh.
and
Are
yeah,
they
it's
graduates of courses or are they sort of active students right now?
no, they're graduates of courses. So
Unreal.
yeah, it's been busy. So when you're growing a centre like that, you not only have to. I'm really passionate about looking after the needs of the students and supporting them after the course because I know our courses are great, and our teachers are great, so I know they're really well looked after during the course. But we work really hard to support them after the course with resources, and if we hopefully we get to know them and we can put them in touch with people, that sort of thing. So it's been really busy to be able to put the structures in place because as you know as you grow you need systems and you need structures to make sure
No
that
doubt.
things operate efficiently. So it's been a great learning experience because one of the things, as I said, one of my passions is technology, and I love being able to experiment with technology. Some things work, some things don't, and implement it in the business in a way that can help our customers or our students.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll jump into some of those things that have worked and some of the things that haven't, Valerie. But I mean, you've grown from, just you kicking it off in 2005 to now 18,000 students. That's pretty amazing. Has there been do you have a core sort of marketing philosophy around that?
Um, I'm not sure if it's a core marketing philosophy, but a core philosophy.
Yeah, even
um,
better.
yeah, I guess that from day one of the things that just drove me and really underpinned the business was a personal passion. And that personal passion, interestingly, wasn't writing, even though I am passionate, very passionate about writing. That wasn't the thing that was driving me because it's not, my writing doesn't drive the center. It was a personal passion to help people achieve their goals or achieve their dreams, to be honest.
Mm.
And I know that sounds really a bit rah rah and a bit Tony Robbins, but but I can only be truthful. And I just love helping people see their potential and helping them see, well, if they took these steps, working out what the practical steps are, and if they took those steps, they could achieve their goal.
Mm.
And what happened, I guess, was I couldn't do it in just any aspect of life because I could never, coach someone to become a Olympic water polo player if my life depended on it.
Oh, Valerie, you never know. You
I know
could have a
you
new
could,
calling.
but I could never do that. I could never coach somebody to, climb Mount Everest or whatever, but I could coach somebody to improve their writing and to achieve their writing dreams. So I kind of combined my technical skill with my personal driving passion. And that's how the Australian Writers Centre was born. And from day one, I didn't even know for sure if we were going to do it, as in help people get published and write books and all of that in the very, very early days. But I thought, we'll give it a go. And what was
Mm.
fantastic really was that we started seeing results really, really quickly. People getting published very quickly. People, improving their writing. Because not everyone wants to get published. Some people just want to improve their writing for work reasons and get ahead of their career. But getting emails from people saying that their managers have noticed a difference in their writing.
Well written ones, I hope.
Yeah, yeah, straight away. That's been really. It's been really rewarding. So I guess, and something that's a philosophy that's underpinned the centre has been to help people achieve their dreams. And if they happen to be their writing dreams, that's all the better.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. I've been the beneficiary, so thank you very much. And I know Adam and I both have said many times in our book process that, without your course kicking us off, and then ultimately having a deadline imposed on us, it's just so easy to see how it would never get done because, even the intensive sort of editing process and everything else, you could just keep going forever. And so, those two things really bookended our experience, which was, starting off with you and the Australian Writers Centre, and then closing it off with a deadline from a publisher, which is really satisfying in the end.
Great. And what was great about what I observed with your journey is you both had this single-mindedness that it was just going to happen. A lot of people because you hear a lot of stories, it's really hard to get a book deal, or, you've got to set aside so much time to write a whole book, that sort of thing. A lot of people look at the obstacles and they just never move past them. And even though we give you the techniques and the steps to move past them, some people, you really need to give them that extra push. And what was great with you guys is you learnt the steps that you needed to take, and you simply took them and you flew, which was fantastic to watch, to be honest.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it felt like flying by the seat of the pants a lot of the time. But thanks for your guidance along the way too, Valerie, because you really. There are a couple of times there where you answered questions for us that we were sort of getting stuck on, and I guess that role, as you say, of the not just the course but then that after support was just so important to our process. I think of actually being able to ship a book at the end of the day. So,
well, I want people to succeed. That's nothing that makes me happier.
Yeah, true. Well, we're massive advocates anyway, Valerie. So thank you. So let's talk about some marketing stuff and what you've done with the Australian Writers Centre, and I guess in your career as well. But what's worked well for you, do you feel?
Oh, wow. Okay. Online. So social media, but also in the last few years, content marketing. And, we started in 2005, so there wasn't that much social media happening at the time. We weren't on Facebook, we weren't on Twitter, we weren't on, any of these things. So I guess at the very beginning, one of my biggest lessons was, I should have a website, and we created our first website, and I'm forever thankful to a friend of mine who took a look at the mock-up of the website and she just screwed her face up. And I'm like, okay. And she kind of said under her breath, well, not under her breath, she kind of said in the most diplomatic way she could, "Oh, it looks a bit amateur." And I went, "Oh my God, okay, well, that's brutal, but that's honest." And I'm so grateful. And that website never went live. And I immediately worked really hard to improve the look of the website. And by today's standards, it's still really daggy and archaic, but back then it was okay.
Yeah.
And so, I guess I understood early on that I had to be online. And after creating the website, I remember getting the book, How to Grow Your Business with Google for Dummies.
Right.
Or it could have been for idiots, or it could have been whatever. But anyway, but it was by Dave Taylor. And I sat there one weekend, and the book's possibly out of date now because this was many years ago. But I sat there one weekend and I refused to let myself turn the page until I had implemented everything on that page.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was so glad that obviously I didn't have a lot on that weekend. But I was glad of that because Immediately I started seeing results, and I thought, wow, okay, there's something in here. I wrote to the author. He's a guy in America, just saying thank you because this has really helped.
Mm.
And then also very early, I started with Google AdWords. Very different landscape now, but it showed me, the power of online advertising.
Yep.
And since then, we started blogging, and then we really embraced content marketing. We started doing videos. We started doing podcasts, and we made sure that we had a lot of resources available online for people who wanted to find out more about writing. So we just wanted to provide this service and provide information to people that we knew people wanted, and that has proved to be really, really, really valuable.
Awesome. Yeah. And so along that path, clearly there must have been a ton of experiments. Is there one that sort of really sticks out that perhaps didn't work so well, or things that you'd recommend others avoid?
I think that people are scared to try, doing things online because they're afraid of what it's going to look like if it's a mistake kind of thing. People are generally fairly forgiving if they know that you're experimenting, but I can understand if you're a larger business having that fear. And I have to say, I had that fear as well. So before blogging was even a thing, before Twitter or Facebook was really normal, no one was on it. I didn't know a soul on Twitter. I didn't, back in 2007 when I joined, I didn't know anyone who blogged except for, a couple of people who didn't have very interesting blogs at the time anyway. And so I was too scared to do it, thinking, oh, what are people going to think? What am I going to blog about? What in the world would I tweet? So it sort of coincided with the time that I got my first pet, my cat, who
Gotcha.
who is Rex, and I became obsessed with Rex. He was so cute. I took thousands of photos of Rex, and I thought, you know what? I'm too scared to blog. I'm going to let my cat blog because everyone will forgive a cat if he makes a mistake. I didn't put my name on it or anything. It was just my cat's, my cat putting photos of himself and my cat writing things on a blog. But it helped me understand how to do it, helped me understand how easy it was, and most importantly, it helped me understand the impact it could have. And you might be thinking, how in the world is this possible, and how did you relate it to your business? Well, Rex was blogging. I know this sounds insane, but
I'm loving it.
He started getting emails. People all over the world, like intelligent people, barristers were emailing him, and and it's sending them photos of their cats and stuff like that. Pet food companies were were sending, gourmet cat food for him to try.
No way.
He had a Flickr. That was the first thing he started, a Flickr page. And he was getting all these comments on Flickr and, oh, my God, you're so cute and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, this is just bizarre. But I thought, okay, whatever. But it wasn't until I was in a pub in Sydney, and it was, I think it was near Chatswood or somewhere. But anyway, it was a pub in Sydney, and I was looking over, about 10 meters away, and there were two women just checking out. One was showing her something on their phone or whatever. And I'd looked and looked and looked, and I realized one girl was showing the other girl Rex's blog. And I thought, oh my God, if this can happen, if a cat with no strategy about blogging or social media or content marketing can reach these people, can have this kind of impact, imagine what a business could do who did have a strategy in social media and marketing and blogging. So bang, next day, I started a blog for the Australian Writers Centre. I started, putting plans together for videos, and because at the time even Rex was making little videos.
Oh wow!
Yes, I'm one of those people that populate the internet with cat videos. So
that's confession. We'll class that as a confession.
I hardly tell this story to anyone, Toby. So I'm not sure how you're getting this out of me. But anyway, And that is when I realized that it is really powerful, and I just started doing it. I started not being afraid. Obviously, I didn't, post anything ridiculously controversial or anything terrible or rude or
Mm.
or too opinionated to start off with, just so that I could get into the groove. And I realized that people were responding, and just as they did to Rex. But obviously, these were, my target market of aspiring writers. And it kind of went from there, to be honest. So the way it was born was through this weird little experiment with my cat
Mm.
that grew and grew and grew. But it taught me many, many lessons about how to interact online and the power of communication online.
Yeah, that's an incredible story, Valerie. That is amazing. So, if we were to have there been any catastrophes that you found?
Oh, wow. Let me think. Not catastrophes, but um, these days there are things that I've probably pulled offline, not because they're bad or offensive or whatever, but just because their production quality is not up to scratch compared to what people are used to these days. So in the past, you could do a pretty, you could do video with sort of not that great sound quality, or you're not totally in focus, or you're squinting, or, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And consumers are a little bit more demanding these days, and if you want to get their attention, you can't have a video, say, that's too crappy, or audio that's bad, or that sort of thing. So
Mm.
there's some things that I'm in the process of redoing, just because of production qualities.
Sure.
Mm.
Okay. Interesting. And are there any tips around that production quality? Like, is there something that you're doing now that you weren't doing previously to sort of ensure that level of quality that you are after?
Are you just using better equipment and you're taking greater care?
What do
And so
you use?
And so things take longer, you know what I mean,
Sure.
to produce than they used to. Fortunately, in the world of podcasting, you don't have to use really, mega equipment, but over time we invest in that slightly better video camera, or then that slightly better, piece of
So
equipment.
what do you actually use at the moment then, Valerie, for those wanting to know some detail?
So for the stuff that I'm redoing, I've actually realized I do not want to learn how to be Steven Spielberg, and I don't
Outsourcing that.
and I don't necessarily want my staff to spend their time learning how to be Steven Spielberg. So for, say, things like video, we're now outsourcing that. And so, you get the quality online video expert to do that. With things like podcasting, where I'm still doing it myself because I've really enjoyed it. I've done it for a really long time, and you don't need quite the level of skill because you don't have to put your makeup on, and you don't have to,
Get the lighting right. And
exactly.
for sure.
But something like video now, I will outsource to the experts.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm.
Okay, so in terms of your marketing, then has there been anything that's gone like spectacularly or surprisingly well for you that you really weren't expecting?
I guess it's not that we weren't expecting. I guess we just didn't think about what we were expecting. But I have to say that the popularity of the Best Australian Blogs competition has gone really well. I think
Awesome.
that
I'm keen to dive into that in some detail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So that'll
Well,
be okay. Well, we might just if that's all right, we might just hold that for a
yeah,
sec.
okay, we can
And
park
then
that.
we'll
But
jump
but
into that in a
actually,
second.
another point, that in
Sure.
terms of catastrophes, one thing is, not that it's a catastrophe, but I think there's been quite a number of things that have not appeared as catastrophes at all from the front-facing kind of public, but that have been bedlam.
Right.
Behind the scenes, everything's all worked out and worked out really well, from an external point of view. But I guess one thing is I've often underestimated the amount of work that will go into X, Y, or Z project. So as a result, the to-do list is longer than you think that it should be, and that sort of thing, and you end up kind of frantically pulling everything together. Thank God it does come together, and thank God it comes together really well, but that's not without a great deal of stress. So If
Any
I
particular examples of that?
Um, hmm, just in a lot of the, major projects that we run for the first time.
Yep,
So perhaps the first Best Australian Blogs competition or the first meetup that we do in a city. You never know all the variables.
for sure.
So
You don't, do you? There's just no, and yeah, there's no way, really.
no way. And so the second time and the third time, you've learned from the experience and it's great. It runs heaps better. But the first time you do anything, it's always it's double the time that you think that it should take.
Indeed. Okay, well, that's awesome, Valerie. Well, let's jump into this Best Australian Blogs competition because to me, that's something that really distinguishes you guys as a business, the Australian Writers Centre, and seems to me as just a brilliant strategy to involve a huge community of, very vocal people really online. And so I'm really keen, how did it get started? What's been the process? What's worked well? What hasn't? What's been the benefit? But yeah, let's, if we can, start at the beginning. Sort of where did the idea come from for you guys?
Sure. Well, about 4 years ago, I think the blogosphere is really starting to pump up in Australia. Sure, there were blogs before, but it was only 4 years ago that there were the first blogging conferences. Whether that's ProBlogger, which both you and I have been at, or whether it's the Aussie Bloggers Conference, which became Digital Parents. I think this year or next year is the fifth Eat Drink Bloggers Conference. So it all started around the same time, and it was still relatively small, the blogging community 4 or 5 years ago, and it really exploded over the last 4 years. But we recognised that this was a place where people could find their voice and where people could practice, not just practice their writing, but just, showcase their creativity. So it was such an exciting thing because you hear so many stories of really talented writers whose stories remain unheard and always in the bottom drawer because a publisher doesn't take them on. And sure, they could self-publish if they want to, particularly these days, but not everyone is cut out for that or wants to do that. But blogging is a way not only for them to showcase their writing, but to connect with other writers or other people in, other like-minded people. Because you don't have to be a writer to blog. You can be
You sure don't. That's what blogging does, is it can help turn you into a writer, in my book.
Exactly, because it helps you find your voice. You don't have to be an aspiring writer, but you realise that you can write, which is the most exciting thing about blogging for me. So 4 years ago, well, it was more than 4 years ago when we started the plan, but we realised that there was this burgeoning industry in blogging where people were forming little communities and connecting with each other and showcasing what they were all about. And we felt that this was a wonderful way to celebrate that, but to highlight the cream, if you know what I mean. Not only the cream, because there's a lot of people who enter and get discovered just as a result of that, and other people discover them through the hashtags or whatever. But so it started really as a way to celebrate. And I know people say, people have often said to me, it's such a great marketing strategy.
I know, it's brilliant.
But it actually didn't start off that way.
That's so cool. I love that it's altruistic. That's even better.
Yeah, it's true. It just didn't start off that way at all. And so we did the first year, and it was great to discover new blogs. From a personal point of view, I just love discovering some new blogs as well. And our winner in that first year was Nikki Parkinson from Styling You, and she's still got a fantastic blog. In fact, she's one of the best bloggers in Australia, in my opinion. And she's got a book coming out in July, I think, being published by Hachette, I believe, and and that's off the back of her blog, and it's sort of been great just to see the different trends that have occurred in the blogging world over the last 4 or 5 years, but also see the ones that have risen to become high profile Uber bloggers.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, to me, I've been talking sort of media with a few people lately, and this idea that the bloggers are sort of slowly but surely taking chunks off the traditional media, and actually, they are becoming media businesses of their own right as well, obviously. But it is amazing to think that there are people out there, doing this stuff and producing, really interesting topical writing and video pieces in so many different topics and areas.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And not everyone wants to be a Nikki Parkinson, though. Not everyone wants to build a media empire. A lot of the business blogs, and you guys were one of the finalists in the business blogging category.
Yeah, thank you for that.
It's well deserved. But you guys are one of the finalists, and not everyone is doing it for the same reasons as the hobby bloggers or the confessional bloggers or the lifestyle bloggers. The business people are doing it because they are, they're providing thought leadership pieces, or they're creating a bank of expertise on their blog that's going to support their business. They're not necessarily wanting to get advertising like some of the bloggers, or get sponsorship or anything like that. It's a very different reason, and I love the fact that the blogosphere can do that. It can serve so many purposes.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And so how many blogs did you have in this most recent, how many nominations did you have in the most recent Australian Blogs competition?
Entrants, the people who ultimately entered,
Yep.
were about 1,200 or so.
From how many in the first year?
First year was about 540 or so.
Okay.
And so that's been good. And there's about 17,000 people voted in the People's Choice Awards. And it's great because the quality, what's interesting is that the quality of the entrants is higher every time. Not just the way they create their blog, the angle of their blog, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's been interesting as well, just to watch the evolution of entrants anyway.
Yeah, I bet. And so where have you seen a benefit, on the back of the competition? Have you seen a benefit to the Australian Writers' Centre, or has that been, how has that worked?
I have to say that because it wasn't designed to be a marketing tool initially, we didn't build in marketing metrics because even though we can measure things like hits and, unique visitors and all that kind of stuff, we don't sell to the we don't sell to the audience, if you know what I mean, because we want it to stand alone as a independent blogging competition. So it hasn't. We didn't build in those sort of upsells or or that kind of thing. If people subsequently want to join our newsletter or that sort of thing, they certainly can. And yes, we did have an increase in the number of newsletter subscriptions, which is great. But we're not about the hard sell.
Sure. Yeah. No. I guess I'm also interested in that. Has it been branded the Australian Writers' Centre, for the listeners? Have you branded it as the Australian Writers' Centre blog competition, or it literally is an independent entity that runs its own competition and you guys happen to support it?
Right. It is definitely run by us, but the interesting part here, and we didn't really think of this 4 years ago, is that it is officially called the Australian Writers' Centre Best Australian Blogs Competition, but that's a freaking mouthful. So no one ever says it that way.
Right. I'm sorry. I should have been saying that all along. I'll change my notes. I'll make sure it's in the show.
No. So, and we recognise that has been a limitation by just the sheer number of words and the sheer number of words in our name. Sure. But that's okay, because the blog competition, the Best Australian Blogs competition, exists, for a certain purpose, and it definitely does serve that purpose. Yep. We will try a little bit more strategically next time to incorporate it, but it is very hard. You can't have 7 words in a title, kind of thing.
No, true. And I guess you could claim the naming rights sponsorship in, it's a bit like people calling Suncorp Stadium, they still call it Lang Park.
Right. Yes.
So anyway, that's probably a bit too state of origin. but topical nevertheless.
Thanks for that, Toby.
Yeah, oh, that's really cool, Valerie. And was there, is there anything else about that particular competition that you feel, that you'd like to share around it?
I think what's been exciting is for other people in other organisations to recognise the power of blogging and of bloggers. Not every blog or blogger, mind you, but there is certainly a growing force of bloggers who are more and more influential these days. And I think that's testament. And what the way that's become obvious is that the number of the sponsors who want to become involved. So, for example, Random House has been a sponsor for the last 2 years, and two of the winner of the 2013 competition has a book coming out with Random House. Beautiful book, but also one of the finalists, Reza Vardad, he's got a book coming out with Random House. And that they discovered him through our competition.
Must be a fertile hunting ground for them, I would have thought, because they're always on the lookout for talent, right?
Exactly. And this year, Trafalgar became involved because they're also realizing the connections and community of that's really prevalent in the blogosphere. And so the winner of this year's competition is going on a all expense paid trip to Turkey, which is great. I can't wait to read her post on that.
You don't get to go along with chaperone?
Damn it, no. And Turkey's, incredible. So it's a great opportunity for her as well. So the competition has grown and attracted really quality partners as well. But it's been a wonderful benefit for the entrants.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. That's great. Well, Valerie, thank you so much. This has been awesome. What I'd like, just a couple more pieces of, so if you were, a couple of standard questions that we ask on the potty really is, if you're starting your marketing from nothing today, what would you do first?
Wow. Okay. Well, I would definitely embrace online sooner rather than later. And the other thing I would do would be invest in the more sophisticated systems. So when you're starting out as a small business, you think, I don't want to pay, the medium amount or the pro amount. I'm going to go for the lower amount and I'm going to live with that,
Yeah.
But when you build your systems around your basic features in marketing tools and software and that sort of stuff, you're already putting a ceiling on your growth. So if I had my time again and I knew what I know now, I would start off with the full functionality of whatever tools that I'm using. Even if I only end up using a fraction, at least it's there in case I want to experiment with something straight away, or if I have fast growth straight away. I already know it. The functionality exists, and I've already learnt some of it. So invest in marketing tools.
Yeah, right. And I mean, have you got any tools that you use that you are a huge fan of?
So yes, I'm currently getting to know Infusionsoft really well. I did explore them about 5 or 7 years ago. Quite a long time ago, 5 years ago, and really didn't like it at all, to be honest.
Right.
And didn't like it for quite a number of reasons. Pretty major reasons. But then over the past sort of year, I noticed that some people that I respect had started to use it, and I would talk to them about it, and I do respect their opinion. So I started investigating it again and using it, and I have to say that a lot has changed since I first explored Infusionsoft, and it's been a great decision to move to it. It's saved hours, if not days, off our systems.
Wow.
And off our marketing activity, not just marketing activity, but our entire operational activity. So it's been life-changing.
Wow, okay. Because, I mean, I have noticed that same trend as well, actually. A lot of people using Infusionsoft, particularly those businesses that are creating a lot of content as a part of their business. So, I might be interested to have a bit of a chat to you a bit more about that at some point, Valerie?
Yeah, definitely. I think with any marketing tool, whether you use Infusionsoft or something else, this a similar one is Ontraport.
Sure.
Um, I think that it's not easy. Like it's really quite complex, and the danger is that you could only learn the surface stuff and think, oh my god, I'll get to it when I have 2 weeks off over Christmas, or I'll get to it when I get a new staff member or whatever. And if you don't plunge headfirst into it, I feel that you will stay on the surface for way too long and you will actually kick yourself when you finally do, because you've realized that life could have been better a lot earlier. And I'm hearing that a lot. I think that because we transferred to it over the Christmas break, I actually did have that period to thoroughly immerse myself in it, and I'm so glad that I plunged headfirst into it, because everything is quicker once you get into it.
Sure. Oh, cool. And that worked well with your existing blogs and your existing platforms and websites and everything else. It was easy enough to plug into the stuff that you're already doing.
Yeah, more or less. There's a few things that need to be changed, but nothing major.
Yeah, right. Oh, cool. Okay, so what's next on the marketing front for you?
Wow. Well, even though I've been doing podcasting for years, we only started this year a new podcast called So You Want to Be a Writer, which I co-host with Alison Tate, who's an author and also a presenter at the Australian Writers Centre. And apart from the fact that we're just having a ball, it's almost like a gossip session every week, where we talk about the writing, publishing, and blogging industry, and we interview an author. Apart from that, it's gone really well on iTunes, and it's ranked really well. It's got some good reviews, and we're receiving feedback and emails, and it's just another way to engage with people who may not be into reading blogs. They might want to have you in their ears when they're doing the laundry or driving the car or whatever. So it's another great avenue which has been super fun to do.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I must say we've having kicked off our podcast now, it's just been so much fun.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Every piece of it, really. And final question then is, who have you learned from? Who do you follow in person or via their books, blogs, presentations?
Wow, that is a really good question. Who do I learn from? Wow.
It's a bit of a monster.
I guess I'm inspired by the people who two different things. I'm inspired, to be honest, by students. Well, people like you, people who take the ball and run with it. You know what I mean? They see these are the steps I need to take to achieve my dreams. And then they just go do them. I love that. So when I see you doing that, when I see our other students doing that, it's just awesome. I think, oh my God, everything is worthwhile. This is wonderful. In terms of, people like the Seth Godins of the world or or that sort of thing, I'm not so much, even though Seth is wonderful and all of the luminaries like that are wonderful. I have to say that I recently went to a conference in Phoenix, and it was more the people that I met serendipitously who then took the time to understand my business and provide suggestions and solutions that blew me away. Just the fact that they would do that was incredible. So it's just those random people who, for whatever reason, take the time to make a difference in your life on a personal level. So they're not famous. I can't really name them. They're the people who just make me go, oh my, wow, you've actually just changed my life. And that's amazing. Yeah.
There's some incredible, to me, actually, that's one of the things that I really love about the blogosphere and the web generally, is that there's just so many people giving away so much unbelievable. I mean, I guess that's part of the challenge as well, is that it can become massively overwhelming. But there are some people giving away some really amazing content and so much that you can learn from. And it's phenomenal to think that it's really, it's only been around 20 years or so. Or, more broadly available, and clearly the availability is going through the roof. But it is incredible, some of those ideas that it's sort of based on, this idea that, let's put back into the pool so then everyone can benefit. I just love that concept of the web.
Yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
Okay, Valerie, well, thank you so much. How can listeners connect with you?
They can connect with me on my personal blog at valeriekoo.com, or they can check out my book at powerstoriesbook.com, or they can check out the Australian Writers Centre at writerscentre.com.au.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure all of those are in the show notes, and I might include your Twitter handle if that's okay.
Sure, at Valerie Koo.
Awesome. No worries. Well, Valerie, thanks so much again for joining us on the show. It's been unreal to have you. Thank you.
It's been great fun. Thanks, Toby.
Don't forget, you can download the 33 free web marketing templates from bluewiremedia.com.au/book. Thanks so much.